Senator Kelly Ayotte is a Republican from New Hampshire. She sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. She's been outspoken in recent weeks in the call for answers, honest answers, on Libya and what happened to our ambassador. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Megan. It's good to be with you.
All right, so that's no big surprise, as I say, admitting that there were security lapses. I mean, we knew that. You know, that's not why we're having hearings on Capitol Hill to talk about, were there security lapses? Of course there were. So what have we learned? What's jumped out at you?
What's jumped out at me is what I think we suspected from the beginning. The Accountability Review Board found that there were systematic failures in leadership, that there was a deteriorating security situation based on the prior attacks on the consulate, our allies, the intelligence leading up to it, that they should have secured this consulate, that the security was grossly inadequate. But it's made clear from the report, with 3 State Department officials resigning, that we do have to hear from Secretary Clinton, because obviously we need to understand fully what she was aware of. We have to assume that she was aware of this deteriorating security situation. Why weren't actions taken? And also the president, what was he told about the situation in Libya, and why didn't he act in conjunction with her to make sure that the consulate was secure? So those are questions that haven't been answered. As well as I serve on the Armed Services Committee, and I do think we have to understand why we didn't have military assets in place, given the volatility in Libya, in that area of the world, that could have helped those 4 brave Americans during, let's not forget, it was a 2-phased attack that occurred over a 7-hour period. In particular, the last 2 that were killed, could we have stopped that or helped them and prevented it?
Right, because that happened several hours after the initial attack,
yes.
And there was a question about whether we could have sent some reinforcements there to help those guys as they were fighting the battle. I want to ask you about this. There was a lot of discussion today that may have sounded foreign to our viewers if they were watching it, about what went to the 6th floor at the State Department and what went to the 7th floor. My understanding is 7th floor means
right.
Hillary Clinton, basically, and 6th floor means her deputies. And the
That's
questioning
right.
by Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, was, okay, he asked Mr. Burns, so was there an awareness beyond sort of that 6th floor level
yes.
of the deteriorating security situation? And the answer was, yes, sir. Yes, there was an awareness. So now, is that the first time we've heard that Hillary Clinton, is what I gather he's trying to tell us, knew about the deteriorating security situation in Benghazi?
Right. I took from that testimony that it indicated the 7th floor is where Secretary Clinton's office is, and that indicated that she was aware. But think about this. Given our activity in Libya, I would be shocked if she wasn't aware of this deteriorating security situation. And so that's why her testimony is so important. Why wasn't action taken? And in addition to that, understanding what briefings were made to the president as well. Because let's not forget, I think the other thing that's clear from this report, the story that was told by the administration for 2 weeks, of course, was false. We knew that, but this was also confirmed by this report.
And just so the viewers know, it was false, and there's a real question about whether it would have remained false and undiscussed. If it had stayed under the radar, if folks hadn't pushed. I mean, I know there were lawmakers like yourself on Capitol Hill. There were news organizations
yes.
like our own that kept asking questions, and finally we got answers from the State Department itself this week saying, there was no protest. It was a terrorist attack. The security situation was terrible, and people knew. Now, the other thing about the 6th and the 7th floor,
that's actually one of the things that's troubled me from the beginning about this, Megan. My background before this, I was a prosecutor, and every time I asked a question, we asked multiple questions, couldn't get straightforward answers on something that they should be able to answer. And so I'm glad that the Accountability Review report has come out. There are still additional information that we need following up on that.
Well, you were accused of playing politics, which is, I mean, now the State
That's
Department
right.
agrees with the politics you were playing, apparently. But the second line of questioning was, okay, so the 7th floor knew about the deteriorating security situation, but then the question was asked, were any officials on that 7th level made aware of the requests for additional security that we know were denied? And the answer by Mr. Burns was, I'm not aware of any specific memo that went above the 6th floor. Does that resolve questions you have about what the 7th floor knew about the request for additional?
Megan, it doesn't, because if you listen to that answer, it's a very careful answer. So the question is, were the requests for security, additional security, did it go to Secretary Clinton? And obviously you can be verbally advised of what's going on, you can receive briefings, and so I think those questions have to be posed directly to her. And if she wasn't informed of that, I think that's a very important question for those deputies as well, given the deteriorating security situation in Libya.
So she's coming, Hillary Clinton's coming before you guys in January, is that the current plan?
I've heard that she's going to come in January. This is obviously very important. And I think in the Armed Services Committee, it's also very important that we hear from Secretary Panetta on the military assets and why they weren't in place to be able to respond in the course of an almost 7-hour attack.
Senator, thanks so much for being here. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas to you too, Megan.
I'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.